Sim, will you answer that?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll share these three questions with Mrs. Kfihla and Hodnet, but since the questions refer to last year's AGM and comments made by me, I think I need to cover the principles broadly first and then pass to those gentlemen for more detail. First of all, we've recently issued our policy, and our group climate policy covers all our operations, and it covers the principles applicable to how to think about the East Africa crude oil pipeline or its ancillary projects, and these will be subject to that policy. We've not committed to funding the project yet, and won't do so unless and until we've satisfied ourselves that the project is compatible with our policies and all applicable local and international laws and regulations. We continue to engage with NGOs who oppose the project, and we know that they argue that it has already caused human rights abuses, that it will cause irreparable environmental damage, and that it will not benefit the economies of East Africa. However, we've also engaged with Total as well as the government of Uganda, who make a very different case. We take all inputs very seriously, and we will reach a conclusion based on a fair and thorough weighting of the economic, social, and environmental pros and cons associated with this project. We recognize the potential for very large economic and fiscal benefits from this foreign direct investment for the countries involved, but we will continue to consider the environmental and social costs and benefits and weigh all the information accordingly. In our role as advisors, we're impressed on the developers of EACOP, including the international oil companies as well as the government of Uganda and Tanzania, the necessity of following appropriate and reasonable processes with regards to environmental and social risks, due diligence to the highest international best practice as well as local legislation. Potential lenders, including the Standard Bank, are relying on the services, as the question points out, on the services of an independent environmental social consultant to undertake the E&S due diligence. This has recently concluded an update of the environmental and social due diligence report, which has been shared with the lenders for their consideration as part of our own due diligence process. The findings of the report are currently being reviewed by internal experts, and our final assessment and subsequent decision will follow. Our participation in the funding of EACOP also remains subject to our credit approval processes, which include consideration of the findings of these due diligence assessments and meeting the Equator Principle requirements. And lastly, our participation is also subject to a full assessment of the EACOP sponsors' climate change strategies and targets. The process is not complete yet. With that, let me hand over to Mr. Fisher to add any gaps that I have left.
Any?
Mr. Chairman, Sim has covered all the appropriate issues. No decision has been made. The sort of environmental impact assessment study that was commissioned by the sponsor was only concluded a couple of months ago, which then delayed our own independent review of that, including the review by the consultants that have been appointed by Standard Bank. So we haven't made a decision as yet with regard to that. I think Sim has dealt as well with other issues related to human rights, which obviously can only be verified once a proper assessment has been done of the entire situation, including through the partnership that we're developing with local NGO or Stockbridge.
Can we move on to more questions?